March 4th, 2022, 3:17 a.m. Khamas, Utah, most of the quiet mountain town, is asleep. The streets are empty. The lights are off. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. Then a 911 dispatcher answers a call. Kouri Richins says her husband is not breathing. She tells the operator they had been celebrating earlier that evening. A real estate deal had finally closed. She had made Eric a Moscow mule. They went to bed. When she woke up, a few hours later, he was cold. Eric Richins is pronounced dead at the scene. He is just 39 years old, a husband, a father of 3, the owner of a successful stonemasonry business, hardworking, devoted to his family, the kind of man who would do anything for the people he loved. At first glance, it looks like another tragic and unexpected death, but it won't stay that way for long. The medical examiner discovers something almost impossible to ignore. Eric has approximately 5 times the lethal level of fentanyl in his blood. 5 times, not the amount someone accidentally consumes, not the result of a simple mistake, an amount investigators believe was intended to kill. And yet, that is not the part of this case that shocks people the most, because while detectives are quietly piecing together what happened, Eric's widow is doing something no one expects. In March 2023, before she is ever arrested, Kouri Richins publishes a children's book called Are You With Me? She says she wrote it to help her 3 young sons cope with the loss of their father. She begins promoting it publicly. She appears on local radio. She says writing the book brought a little peace to both her and her boys. To everyone watching, she appears to be a grieving wife trying to help children survive unimaginable loss. But behind the scenes, investigators are building a murder case against her. Kouri and Eric married in 2013. They signed a prenuptial agreement. Each would keep ownership of their own property, except for one important clause: if Eric died while they were still legally married, that single exception would later become one of the central issues in the prosecution's theory. Prosecutors said Kouri projected the image of a successful real estate entrepreneur, but behind that image, debt was growing. Businesses were struggling. She secretly opened multiple life insurance policies on Eric without his knowledge, believing his death would leave her with access to millions of dollars. But there was one problem, a problem she allegedly never knew existed. Years before his death, Eric had quietly changed his estate plans after discovering financial issues involving debts connected to Kouri. He removed her from his will. The fortune prosecutors argued she expected to receive would never have been hers. She killed him for money she was never going to receive. On Valentine's Day 2022, just days after another life insurance policy became active, Eric called 2 close friends. He told them he suddenly became violently ill after eating a sandwich his wife had prepared. He used his son's EpiPen. He survived. Later, he told people something deeply disturbing. He believed his wife had tried to poison him. No police report was filed. No intervention came. 17 days later, Eric drank another drink, prepared by his wife, a Moscow mule. According to prosecutors, that drink contained a fatal dose of fentanyl. This time, he never woke up. Prosecutors said Kouri asked her housekeeper, Carmen Lorber, to obtain fentanyl pills. She allegedly claimed they were for a business investor suffering from severe pain. Lorber later testified. She provided the drugs. Kouri later asked for something even stronger. She allegedly referred to it as the Michael Jackson stuff. Then text messages between the two women had been deleted from both of their phones. But investigators recovered other evidence. Kouri's internet searches included, what is a lethal dose of fentanyl? Luxury prisons for the wealthy in the United States, and even searches for her own net worth. Those searches would later become some of the most talked about pieces of evidence presented in court. Jurors heard the 911 call from the night Eric died. The lead prosecutor made a statement that quickly spread far beyond the courtroom. He told jurors it was not the sound of a wife becoming a widow. It was the sound of a wife becoming a black widow. The jury listened to weeks of testimony. Then they left to deliberate. It took them only 3 hours. Guilty on every count. On May 13th, 2026, what would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday, Judge Richard Mrazek sentenced Kouri Richins to life in prison, without the possibility of parole, standing before the court. In a lime green jail uniform, she called the verdict an absolute lie. She told the court she would appeal. She spoke directly to her 3 sons, who were not present in the courtroom. Please just don't give up on me. 3 boys, just 9, 7, and 5 years old, when their father died, old enough to remember him, too young to understand why he never came home. They lost their father, then they lost their mother, and they will spend the rest of their lives carrying the weight of a tragedy they never chose. Was there one moment in this case that completely changed the way you saw the story? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe to Rulik Enigmas and turn on the bell. Eric Richins deserved better. His sons deserved better. Say his name, Eric Richins.